You have questions?
What is slashing?
We have answers.
Slashing is, like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And, there's a penalty for that?
Yeah. You do that, you go to the box, 2 minutes by yourself, and you feel shame, and then you get free.
This is CBJ in 30.
Anything you folks want to know about the fascinating world of pro hockey, here we go.
Tweet your questions by using the hashtag CBJIN30.
We'd like to remind you folks, keep your questions within the boundaries of good taste.
Here's your host, Bob McGilligan.
And welcome once again to CBJ in 30. Again here in Winnipeg, Manitoba today. Tonight the Blue Jackets conclude their 3-game road trip, and they will finish up the first half, if you will. And the reason I do that is because they've actually played more than half of their games. However, the All-Star break begins tomorrow for the Blue Jackets, so they're going to finish things up here tonight, taking on the Winnipeg Jets, and then go back home. The All-Star game, of course, going to be at home this weekend. Blue Jackets with 3 players that are going to participate in that All-Star game: Nick Foligno, Sergei Bobrovsky, and Ryan Johansson. And then back at it on Tuesday against the Washington Capitals at Nationwide Arena. But a lot to do before you get there. The Blue Jackets have work to do here tonight in Winnipeg. I will get to all of that in just a moment. Let's go through what happened last night in the NHL. And the Blue Jackets really didn't get much help again last night with the games that were played in the National Hockey League. There were a lot of Metropolitan Division teams that played last evening. The Penguins and Flyers played last night. They played in Philadelphia. I can't believe it was only Tuesday, because I thought Wednesday night is supposed to be rivalry night in the NHL. And this game defined rivalry night, without question. Absolutely, positively defined it. Because it was a back-and-forth battle. You know what it was? It was what the Penguins and the Flyers are almost every time they get together. It was just about them going at it, just, trying to beat the heck out of each other. And that's what they did last night. They just went right after it. 3-2 was the final. It was an overtime win for the Philadelphia Flyers last night. In that game, there were some things that went on. Zach Rinaldo had a hit on Chris Letang, where Letang went down. Rinaldo got a 5-minute penalty. He claims that it wasn't a bad hit. He claims that where he hit Letang, he hit him in the shoulder. He didn't hit him in the back and drive him into the glass. What else happened in that game last night? The ending was unreal in overtime. Thomas Greiss made a save, thought he had the puck. It falls out of his sweater or his equipment or something. It winds up on the ice. Claude Giroux was there to put it in. But there were fights in the game. There were a number of fights. Jake Voracek fought in the game last night for the Philadelphia Flyers against the Penguins. He fought Rob Scuderi. And this was after Rob Scuderi had taken the butt end of a stick in his eye earlier in the game. So it just defined rivalry night. And the Penguins couldn't win again in Philadelphia. They just couldn't go there and get a victory. Jody Shelley told me before the game, we were watching it together, he said, Sidney Crosby can't win in Philadelphia. Just can't do it. Just doesn't happen for him. And it didn't happen for him. They got 1 point, but the Flyers got 2. And that puts the Flyers ahead of the Blue Jackets in the standings once again going into this game tonight. The Rangers also had to go to overtime. They were playing at home against the Ottawa Senators. Rangers win that one 3-2, the final score there. The Capitals got off to a great start against the Edmonton Oilers. Alexander Ovechkin with a couple of goals. He had a big 50-footer to start it off. One of those patented one-time shots, top of the left wing circle, cross-ice pass. He one-times it into the net by Victor Faust. And it was a 1-0 game. Capitals they seemed like they were in control, but they lose in overtime 5-4, or in the shootout, I'm sorry. Lost in the shootout, 5-4 was the final in that game. Montreal had to go to overtime at home, but they beat the Nashville Predators 2-1. Detroit into a shootout against Minnesota. Minnesota gets a point. That's all they can hang their hat on. Devin Dubnyk, who had won 2 straight before the Blue Jackets beat him on Monday night, started that game. He was pulled for Darcy Kemper throughout the course of that game. The Red Wings win it in the shootout, 5-4, the final there. Tampa Bay Lightning had no problem with Vancouver. Lightning a 4-1 winner. Chicago just steamrolled the Arizona Coyotes. 6-1 was the final in that game. Chicago is going to play Pittsburgh tonight. The Penguins, I mentioned Thomas Greiss started for them in net. They opted to save Marc-Andre Fleury for this game tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. And the Boston Bruins beat the Dallas Stars 3-1 was the final in that game. So that's what happened in the NHL last night. So, good games, some high-scoring games, but that, to me, that Pittsburgh-Philly game just defined it. It was a throwback game because the game has changed so much. And I'm not asking to have 3, 4, 5 fights during a game. That's not it. But you don't see the big hits anymore, not on a consistent basis anyway. And I think part of the reason is because of what happened to Zach Rinaldo in that game. He puts a hit on Chris Letang. And, in looking at the replays that I saw, it did look like he caught him in the shoulder. Letang does go face first into the glass, because he's standing by the glass. He takes the hit here, drives his head into the glass. But anyway, I just think guys are so afraid to hit anymore because of getting fined and getting suspended. And there being disciplinary action for it, even on what is a legal check or what appears to be a legal check or what they are trying to put on as a legal check. The player is. And then the other guy turns or something happens and it turns out being a penalty, maybe a suspension, a fine, all that stuff. So I just think guys are pulling up. So you don't see those big hits. You don't see those momentum changers as much anymore, which a fight can be a momentum changer for sure. It can energize a building, but so can a big hit at open ice. But you have to watch how you do it so much now that I think guys find themselves pulling up and you don't get that hit. And maybe you lose that momentum because you're afraid of what's going to happen to you if you do it and it's deemed that you did it wrong. And that's a shame. And watching that game last night, Penguins-Flyers, and watching guys that is a true rivalry where they cannot stand each other. And I was thinking the Blue Jackets now have that Penguins rivalry, and that's how the Blue Jackets feel about it. I don't know, the Penguins don't feel that way yet about it with the Blue Jackets. But I hope they do soon, because it would be great to know right from the outset, we've got 4 games on the schedule that are just going to be throw everything out there and, tough it out and may the best team win. So that would be nice to get to that point. And that's what the Penguins and Flyers are like each and every time they get together. So that, to me, was the best game of the night by far. Now, what else is on the slate tonight besides this game between the Blue Jackets and the Jets? I mentioned the Penguins are going to host the Blackhawks. Ottawa is playing back-to-back. They're at home tonight. They take on the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's a rivalry game for them. Colorado Avalanche hosting the Boston Bruins, so the Bruins going back-to-back leading into the break. The Anaheim Ducks are at home to take on the Calgary Flames tonight. And, speaking of rivalries, there's another one on the West Coast tonight to close things out this evening. The Los Angeles Kings are playing in San Jose against the Sharks. Now, our game tonight isn't getting underway until 8 o'clock local time, which is 9 o'clock your time. This is a Canadian national broadcast game, so that's why we're not starting until late this evening. That is, it's going to be late. Coming home and going through customs, good thing there's not a game for a couple of days. So that's the saving grace when it comes to that for the Blue Jackets players. But a lot of these guys have plans, and I know of a couple of guys that they've got morning flights to take off and go to Florida, so there's not going to be a lot of rest in day one. Speaking of Florida, can you see this behind me today? There's actual sunshine here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Now, it was a rumor that never happens, but the rumor has been debunked because there is a little bit of sunshine. Little bit of sunshine today. You can see that the wind is still blowing, but of course that'll be a non-factor inside the MTS Center tonight when the Blue Jackets take on the Winnipeg Jets. A Winnipeg Jets team, by the way, that is hot. It's very hot. They have won 4 straight games. The last one they won was a shootout against the Arizona Coyotes. They're feeling pretty good about themselves right now. And this will be the second and final meeting of the regular season with the Blue Jackets. The first one was back in November, the 25th of November, and the Blue Jackets lost at home by the score of 4-2. Evander Kane had a couple of goals for the Winnipeg Jets in that one. That is when the Blue Jackets were not at their best. And I still don't think they're at their best, but I think they are remarkably better than they were at that point when they faced the Winnipeg Jets back in November. We'll see tonight when the two teams go head-to-head. But the Blue Jackets, they're more healthy than they were at that point in time. They have more key players back in their lineup than they did at that time. And the Winnipeg Jets, well, they feel like they're kind of in the same boat. Jacob Trouba, their second-year defenseman, a former first-round pick, he has missed the last 13 games because of an upper body injury. He is on the injured list, but there's a lot of thought that he might be able to play in this game tonight, so they may get him back to fortify their blue line. Dustin Byfuglien Well, and Mark Stewart is another defenseman who may or may not play tonight. They're leaning toward him not playing in this game this evening. So they get one back, then another one would stay out. But Dustin Byfuglien has shifted from forward back to the blue line. And remember, this guy was originally a defenseman that they moved up front, and now he's come back to the blue line. He made the All-Star game playing on the blue line. And now they have too many bodies back there, and they have to decide what they're going to do. But I would imagine Byfuglien stays put for tonight, and if they get Trouba back in the lineup, if he's healthy, they're putting him back in. There's no doubt. He's a first-round pick. He's an above-average player in only his second year in the National Hockey League. So if he can play, they're going to put him back in the lineup tonight. There's no doubt about that. Also tonight, let me see, what else? Matthew Perreault will not play in this game. A couple of games ago against the Florida Panthers, he scored 4 goals in a game in what I believe was an 8-2 win for the Winnipeg Jets here at home over the Florida Panthers. He scored 4. Then they played against Chicago, and Daniel Carcillo cross-checked him in the arm. Carcillo received a 6-game suspension for his actions. Perreault hasn't played since, and as I said, is not expected to play here tonight. And just an interesting side note, did you know that in that game where Matthew Perreault scored 4 goals, there actually was a contest going on in the building where one fan would have won $1 million had he scored a 5th goal in that game. Could you imagine? Could you imagine sitting there with a chance to win $1 million if the guy gets his 5th goal? Because going into the game, if you're in that contest, you're saying, well, this is a nice little contest, but there's no way you ever have a chance to win. And all of a sudden you're on pins and needles, biting off all your fingernails, biting your fingernails up to your elbows, hoping that you can get $1 million. Didn't happen, unfortunately. But even more unfortunately for the Jets is now Matthew Perreault is out of their lineup, and he was their hottest scorer at the time that he went out. So they will have to do without him here tonight. Michael Hutchison is going to make the start in goal. It's a goaltending rotation here for the Winnipeg Jets. Andre Pavlik is the other goaltender, and Hutchinson played really well in Columbus back in November. So looks like he will get the nod to go once again tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. This game, if the Blue Jackets play their game tonight, if they do what they do so well, if they forecheck, if they play with the speed that they can, if they do what they did against the Minnesota Wild, then they have every opportunity and chance to win this game tonight. The Winnipeg Jets are similar to the Blue Jackets, whereas they are young and they play hard. But I think maybe one of the differences is they play so hard, they take a lot of penalties because they run amok at times. They will hit you and not worry about it and not care. And they will rely upon their penalty kill unit to bail them out. Now, their penalty kill unit is 9th in the league coming into this game, so it's very good. But I don't know how much they want to rely on that when the Blue Jackets have the 3rd best power play in the NHL coming into the game. Speaking of that, I'm watching last night, as I said, the Penguins Flyers, and I'm watching both of these teams on the power play, and I'm watching how they move the puck, and I'm looking at some of the personnel that they have. And I said to Jody Shelley, I said, isn't it amazing you watch these teams and you watch the way they work with a puck, and yet the Blue Jackets are 3rd in the league on the power play. How does that happen? And he said it's a very simple answer. The Blue Jackets are extremely good at retrieving pucks. And that's not going back down the ice and retrieving them, which, by the way, when they have to do that, when they get forced out of their zone, I think they have been remarkably better in coming up the ice with that defenseman carrying the puck and the forward trailing. You get to the red line, you turn, you throw it back, and you allow that forward to come with full speed through the neutral zone. You've already kind of, parted the sea a little bit there just by the defenseman carrying the puck and not 100% sure he's going to throw it back. If he does it with the right timing, that forward comes through with speed, gets into the zone, then you can set things up. They've been really good at doing that. But Jody said they're very good at retrieving pucks, and after I thought about it, he's absolutely right, because what this team does on the power play, they follow their shots. If you played basketball growing up, what did they say to you? Follow your shot. Don't just shoot it and start backing up. Follow it. Look for a rebound. It's similar here because you take the shot, and when it redirects off somebody or somebody blocks it or the goaltender knocks it aside, these guys are going after it. They are puck hungry on the power play. They are getting it back on one of their sticks. They've got an advantage, and they play like it most times. They're really, lately, when is the last power play that you saw where you've said, which team is on the power play? And it happens at times. There's no question it happens at times. But I think it used to happen a lot more than it happens now, just the way this team plays. They go and they get the puck. If James Wisniewski takes a shot and it misses the net, Nick Foligno's finding that thing. Scott Hartnell's finding it. And the other thing to me is Ryan Johansson and the way that he quarterbacks the power play from the half wall. He has really slowed it down. Now, it doesn't look slow to you and I, but I'm saying in his mind, he can read the play so much better as he gets older, as he gets more experienced, as he gets more confident with the puck on his stick, as he learns how to use his body to its full advantage. He has just gotten better. And he has really slowed it down and is very methodical off the half wall, the way that he sets things up. And he distributes the puck at the right time, I think. He shoots the puck at the right time. And when you put all those things together, that's why the Blue Jackets are third in the league when it comes to the power play. So this goes back to the fact that Winnipeg does play a little bit of a reckless brand of hockey. They will come after you. They will hit you. They will not care how hard they hit you. They will not care if it was 100% legal. That's what you're going to deal with here tonight. And if I'm the Winnipeg Jets starting this game tonight, I'm putting the body on the Blue Jackets defensemen when they're handling the puck inside of their own zone. I am going to force them to move the puck, to beat me with a pass, because I'm going to beat you physically. That's what I would do, especially playing at home in this building, which is very loud. It's a great home ice advantage here at the MTS Center. So I would try to get the crowd really involved in this game early if I were the Winnipeg Jets. If I'm the Blue Jackets and I've got that in my head, hey, I know what these guys are going to try to do. I know they're going to put the pressure on us. Short passes out of their own zone is going to be important for the Blue Jackets. I saw that the other night in Minnesota. I thought they were really good in those short passes. I'm talking those 4, 5, 6 foot passes that you just get the puck by the guy in front of you and you get it to a teammate and then you allow him to make that short pass and get it by his guy. And by the time you do that 3 times, you're out to the neutral zone, a couple of guys are behind you, and now you have a chance to see the ice and do what you want to do with the puck. So short passes here tonight. Don't panic. I think for the defensemen this evening, do not panic when you have the puck in your own zone, behind your own net. You're going to face pressure. Just be ready for the pressure and be ready to find a way to beat that pressure. It's as simple as that. Easy to say. It's an easy game plan. But going out there when you have Dustin Byfuglien bearing down on you, ready to knock you through the boards and into, that's a totally different thing, And I'll be the first one to admit it. If it was me standing there with a puck, I would be in a hurry to get rid of it, get it off my stick immediately. That's what I would want to do. But that's not the game. That's not the way you play. And these guys are figuring it out. They really are. Even the young guys are figuring it out. I talked about Alexander Wenberg yesterday. Figuring it out. Figuring out how to take your time, how to be patient, how to fully utilize your teammates and their skills, how to fully utilize your skills. It's coming as we go on here. It's coming. So that will continue. We'll see if Todd Richards puts the same lineup on the ice today. I would suspect that he will, to be honest with you. He's usually when you win, he is apt to not make changes. This team has won 2 in a row and has the one more. Now, unless there's somebody he wants to have play in a game before the All-Star break and before they sit for another 4 days or what have you. That's the only way I could see where maybe somebody gets back into the lineup tonight, or if you just use the same guys. We'll wait and see at the morning skate coming up in just a bit. And of course, you'll be able to find out the minute it happens. It'll be on social media. Will have it like that. You won't even have to think about it. It will come. The information will come to you. We will somehow place it in your head without you even knowing. You'll know before you knew that you knew. You know what I mean? Did that make sense? Probably not. But anyway, so we'll see what Todd Richards decides to go with here today. And, the combinations, see if he stays with the Hartnell, Dubinsky, and Josh Anderson line. I hope he does. Josh Anderson's played 3 games, and I think he had a really big chance early in the Minnesota game to really get a quality shot on net and maybe even get his first NHL goal. It didn't work out. He got stick checked or the shot got blocked, whatever the case was. But I still think he's played well. That game, and again, the sample size is 3. It's not fair. But that's the worst of the 3 that he has played. That's the least noticeable he's been in the 3 games. The other 2, he was much better. And that's what's going to happen. When you first come in, nobody knows anything about you. You play some games, people start doing film study on you, and then they try to figure out how to negate you from the play. And that's what's going to happen to Josh Anderson, no doubt about it. But playing with Brandon Dubinsky and Scott Hartnell forces teams to pay so much attention to them that he should get some good looks, and he should get open, and he should get some opportunities. So we'll see if he stays with those guys. I really don't see why he wouldn't. You know, another guy I thought played really well the other night, and I guess it's no surprise that he's playing with Ryan Johansson and Nick Foligno, but that's Jeremy Morin. And Jeremy Morin, again, if you're on a Stanley Cup contending team, right now, if you're the Chicago Blackhawks, or you're the Los Angeles Kings, or you are the Bruins, they're down right now, and the Islanders, or if you're on one of these upper echelon teams, let's just say, Jeremy Morin is probably no higher than a third line player on that kind of a team. And I am not saying that as a knock on Jeremy Morin whatsoever. I'm not, because he has a skill set, he's got speed, he's got grittiness, he's got a good shot. But, is he a top 6 guy on a contending team? Probably not. He's probably going to be a grit guy. He and Matt Calvert are going to be the guys that go out there and hound you down, turn pucks over, all those types of things. But as it stands right now, he's playing with Ryan Johansson and Nick Foligno. Now, this is where the real compliment comes into play. There are some guys that just can't do that. There are some guys that you could put in that role, and they just couldn't. They wouldn't perform any differently if they're playing on the first line than on the third line. Then you have guys like Jeremy Morin, who's just upped his game, and he was all over the place the other night, and he was getting his shots and he was getting his chances, and he had a breakaway in the Boston game the other night at the end of his shift when he wanted to be off the ice and had to stay on because there was a turnover and the puck came near him. Then he ended up getting it, turning it into a breakaway. But he's tenacity is the word that comes to mind when I talk about him, and he just really goes after it. I really like that, and I think that's working. It worked last game with Foligno and Johansson because he's out there. Johansson helps to create space. And then when you get a guy like Jeremy Morin in the way that he can skate, and he can skate quickly, then that gives him the room that he needs to maneuver. And whether he takes a shot, and even if it gets denied, where Foligno's going to be. He's going to be in there digging for the rebound, and whatever. It kind of works, or it did work the other night. So we'll see if they stay together, and see what goes on with that tonight. One guy the Blue Jackets have got to get going. It's not. You know what? Let me rephrase that. One guy that has to get himself going is Cam Atkinson. What has it been, 15 games? He hasn't scored a goal, doesn't have a point. He's a better offensive player than that. He knows that. This team is relying on him to find his offensive game and get it going. His best chance in Boston was the Matt Calvert goal in the third period. Atkinson shot it. It got stopped, and then Calvert picked up the rebound and put it in. But to me, it's imperative that he find a way to get himself productive again on the ice. That's important. Again, when you're of his size, there are two things that are going to keep you in the forethought, in the front of the coach's mind. What I'm trying to say, there are two things that are going to keep you on the ice in an important role. Okay, two things that you have: speed and scoring. He's got the speed, but he hasn't been scoring, and he's been slowly dropping, because right now I just discussed lines, right? So technically, not technically, actually he's on the third line with Alexander Wenberg and Matt Calvert right now. So he's been dropping. He's played with Johansson, he's played with Dubinsky, and now he's with Alexander Wenberg. Not that that's a terrible assignment by any stretch of the imagination, believe me, but I'm just saying he's got to get himself going. And it would be nice if it were tonight. And if it isn't tonight, he's got to take the next 4 days and just take that mental break and then come back and be ready to go against the Washington Capitals. Because when Cam Atkinson is a threat, you're a better team. If you watch him fly all over the place and you're afraid that he is going to score a goal, then you're a better team. If you're watching him skate around and he has no chance of putting the puck in the net, no big deal. So it's important for him to find his game and to just get it going, bring it back. Speaking of bringing it back, two guys will be bringing it back in a way tonight. First of all, it'll be a big game for Matt Calvert. It always is when he comes here. His home is in Brandon, Manitoba. which is about 2 hours, 2.5 from here, I believe, which is as close as it gets out here on the prairie of Western Canada. So he's going to have a lot of people here tonight. This is a big game for him. I mean, when he was a kid, they had the Winnipeg Jets when he was young, and then the Jets left, and now the Jets are back. So this is a big game for Matt Calvert tonight, without question. Another guy that's coming back is Kevin Connauton. Kevin Connauton actually broke in with the Vancouver Canucks, and his first season as a pro, his rookie season as a pro, he played here with the Manitoba Moose in the last year that the Moose were in the American Hockey League before the Jets came back and the Moose turned into the St. John's Ice Caps and went out to St. John's, Newfoundland. So kind of a little bit of a homecoming for Kevin Connauton. I'll have to talk to him about that this morning and see what great memories he has of playing here in Winnipeg. I have some great memories here. I spent a lot of time here in the American Hockey League. There was Syracuse and the Manitoba Moose had 2 great playoff series against each other. One of those, Elaine Vigneault was the head coach for the Moose. Gary Agnew was the head coach for the Crunch. Of course, Vigneault's now the head coach in New York with the Rangers. Agnew's an assistant in Pittsburgh. Then Scott Arniel was the head coach next time around. He's Vigneault's assistant now in New York, as we know. And Ross Yates was the coach of the Crunch the next time around. He's in the Quebec Major Junior League right now as a head coach. But they were great playoff series. And then because there was a rivalry that was created, there would usually be 2 or 4 regular season games, because they would send you out here because it was so far away. You would come out here, like fly out on a Thursday, play Friday and Saturday, and then fly out in the first flight on Sunday morning. So, we did that for a number of years, and it was great. But one of my best memories here in Winnipeg is when first of all, the Manitoba Moose, they were one of 6 franchises that used to be in the old International Hockey League, and when it folded, there were 6 franchises that joined the American Hockey League. So I remember coming here for the first time to do a game in in Winnipeg, and it was at the old building. It was where the old Winnipeg Jets played, over at the old stadium, which was out closer to the airport. It wasn't right downtown. And the building had a lot of character. Now, what have I told you before? Whenever a building has character, whenever it is historic, that means it's old. But it did have character. And it had a press box that it was kind of it hung out over the stands. So you had to, it was like it is in Calgary, where to see what was going on down by the penalty boxes right below you, you had to lean over the edge, which was unnerving in its own right. I remember saying to Gary Agnew, I think I might need to tie a rope to my belt loop and to the doorknob just so I don't fall out of the doggone thing when I'm trying to find the puck. So in that building, when they were getting ready to tear that down, they were building the MTS Center. It was the last year of the old arena, and Winnipeg made the whiteout famous, where everybody wears white shirts, the entire crowd, the white out. And, of course, back in the day, the home team wore white. Wish they'd go back to that, by the way. The home team wore white. And so it was a white out. It was white all around. Teams still do it. And you see it in the playoffs, and the Arizona Coyotes, which are the former Winnipeg Jets. They've tried to do it there. Haven't done it with, maybe they have done it with the same success. They've been in the playoffs. But anyway, the last whiteout at the old arena took place when the Crunch played against the Manitoba Moose. And I'll never forget that game because the place was packed. And in the American Hockey League, you didn't very often run across, you didn't play in many NHL buildings or old NHL buildings like this one. You didn't play in that many venues that were that many seats and they were all full. Most times if you played in an NHL arena, they'd curtain off the top or what have you. There were some times we played in Philadelphia when the Phantoms used to be in Philadelphia and we played in the Wells Fargo Center. I remember a playoff series there where it wasn't curtained off. It was wide open and it was sold out. So it happened once in a while, but not very often. So to come here in that old building, it was the last whiteout. You knew how special it was for all the people that attended the game. And the game itself, the place is packed. It's loud. It's crazy. In the game itself, I remember, and now I could be wrong on this number, but I am almost 100% certain Pascal Leclerc stopped 50 shots in the game. Don't say it. It's true. He did. Don't say that's impossible, because he did it. I watched him. And that poor guy, he went through a lot of games in Syracuse where people didn't like the game that he played, and he took a lot of grief. But he was stellar that night. 50 shots he stopped. Brad Moran scored a goal late first period, early second period, something like that. And that was the final. It was 1-0. And the Moose was throwing everything, including the kitchen sink and the cabinets, at that net at the end of the game. And they could not beat Pascal Leclerc. So the last whiteout at the old arena was just ruined by the crunch that night. That's my best memory here of Winnipeg. Now, maybe the Blue Jackets can create a new one here sometime soon. Maybe tonight they can create one to put on the list. That would be nice. That would be very, very nice. So we'll see what happens here. So thanks for taking a little stroll down memory lane with me. So there you go. I thought I had something else, but as usually happens to me, just when I thought I did, I had nothing. It was there. It was gone. Welcome to my life. All right, that'll do it for today's CBJ in 30. Hey, keep watching Twitter, because here over the All-Star break, we'll bring you some shows. We'll have to check on what else is going on and what I'm assigned to, so watch Twitter. I'll let you know when the show's going to be available, and do it tonight, 9 o'clock your time. This game gets underway. I've got it for you on the Blue Jackets Radio Network. So until then, enjoy your day. Talk to you tonight.